Yo, welcome to the show, BroMob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Monday, January 13th, and we've got a great one for you today, BroMob. We've got our 2019 Grand Slam picks, our Whiffs, the players we missed on. Don't worry, Brian came up with both of these names, and afterwards I let him know that both of them were baseball references, and we are, in fact, a football podcast, so he's very confused.
High five. All right.
We'll also be talking about our surprise picks, those players that kind of jumped out of nowhere and had themselves a great fantasy season this year. There were quite a few, Brian. This is a weird year. We had a lot of injuries at the quarterback position. We had a lot of injuries all over the entire league, actually, to be honest. So a lot of players stepped up. Some players that nobody, A, might not have heard of, or B, might not have even thought of. They were an afterthought to them. So quite the year, Brian. And just to get right into it, quite the playoffs that's going on. I mean, Jesus, the Titans. Can we talk about them for a second? My good Lord.
I mean, it's been a great year for football for sure. Titans are crushing it. But we also had a lot of teams that had some pit stops. We had a couple hole-in-ones this year. I believe we had several triple doubles. So, we're going to talk about all of it today. I'm going to be honest with you. I believe one player, Tyler Lockett, just got a birdie. Just watch that live right now, Chad.
Yeah.
That wasn't Tyler Lockett. That was actually Marshawn Lynch. Never mind.
Yeah, he got the birdie. That's for sure. Tyler Lockett was just short of the birdie the play before.
Yeah, that's right.
It looked like he might have gotten in, to be honest, but they just went ahead and ran up there and they said, "Marshawn, here's your Skittles. Run that ball in."
Yeah, well, the Seahawks need to get this game in gear because I need them to win. Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, Packer fans.
I'm not doing too hot on my picks, Brian. Let me tell you right now.
Well, look, no, I'm gonna be clear with you. No one's doing well.
Yeah.
No one saw. So back to your Titans comment. No one saw the Titans doing any of this.
No.
I mean, we suspected that they had the abilities to do it, but look, I have the abilities to sprint like a cheetah. Doesn't mean I can actually do it.
You do not have those abilities. Let me go ahead and tell everybody that right now. The truth is, he's as slow as I am. We run through molasses. We're very slow people.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, I'm pretty fast. I mean,
there was a day and age where I was fast.
I'm going to run really fast for 20 feet and then immediately pull a hamstring probably. So that's
injury
happening.
will
Brian,
occur.
Yeah, 35-year-old Brian's not 16-year-old Brian anymore. And that's something I've come to understand in life.
Both in the legs and on the head, hence the hair being completely gone.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. So
yeah, it doesn't look good. So
I have embraced it. But yeah, these playoff games, the NFL's got to be just overcome with extreme joy because you got the Titans just lighting up people. I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs just decided. I saw a meme online. It was like Travis Kelce trying to explain to Patrick Mahomes. He's like, all right, so hear me out. We give him a 24-point lead, and then we actually start trying. So I mean, it was 24-0, Chad, and they came back 28-24 in one quarter.
Yeah,
I mean, I went to the bathroom to go number one, came back, and they had 14 points.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
It's incredible. That is the Patrick Mahomes that I remember from last season. He's clearly been hampered by injury for the second half of the season. Until now, he's back.
Yeah.
This is the MVP candidate we remember from last year. He is absolutely incredible, man.
So, let's talk about this AFC matchup for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
You got Titans, Chiefs. Titans are coming to Kansas City. Right away, your brain tells you Chiefs all day long. It's the 2 seed versus the 6 seed.
Yeah.
But then I realized that Derrick Henry has been eating human beings for the last, literally, just as he runs, he grabs guys and eats them for the last 2 weeks. Actually all season. Let's back up. So, while we're on this subject, this guy, Chad, he all season long, he's been doing nothing but making this sound. That's right, Chad. King.
Just pause. That's right, Chad. That's it.
Right. Look, he has been screaming and roaring King Kong all season long. You know, most of the NFL's calling this guy King Henry. I'm calling him King Kong Henry. All right. He's been eating people for dinner, lunch, breakfast, and a snack. All right. King Kong Henry, over 30 carries, nearly 200 yards rushing in this game. And, you know, unbelievable. That's back-to-back games with 200 yards, all-purpose yards. I don't know what else you have to do to. I mean, you don't even have to throw the ball. Ryan Tannehill just turns around and, here you go, guy. Like, we're just gonna feed this guy. Why would I throw it when I've got King Kong running our football? So I don't know what else to say. I mean, Chad, my question for you is he making an argument right now with this playoff push to be the number 1 overall draft pick in fantasy next year?
I wouldn't go there. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had one of the best seasons ever.
That's true.
Not even fantasy-wise, Brian. As a running back, like, well, look, it was a top 3 season at the running back position this year from Christian. He had an absolute phenomenal season. He had 1,000 yards rushing and receiving.
I have me that CMC. All right.
Yeah,
I know this. I know this. Okay. What I'm saying to you is he top 3?
Instantly changing. Is he top 3? I mean, now he's putting an argument there, but the biggest thing is, does he land with the Titans again? Did the Titans pay up? Because right now his price tag is just soaring. Like, I mean, what were they thinking not signing him before the playoffs?
Here's the question. Let's play a game real quick, okay? I know this is spontaneous, but I really want to do this because this is not on the script. However, we got to do it, all right?
Yes.
Would you take – it's your pick, okay? Draft opens, right? Half PPR
so
league.
Excited.
Snake draft, redraft, Zeke or King Kong? Everything is the same. Titans re-sign him. Tannehill's there. You know, everyone's healthy. Defense is still good. King Kong or Zeke? The fact that you're scratching your head right now makes me feel, because Zeke is arguably the number 2 draft pick in the 2020 draft. I mean, he's up there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably going to go Zeke for consistency.
Okay,
that's fair. You know what you're getting with him.
That's
all the time.
I think
and Derrick Henry, this is the first time he's ever done this. I mean, at the end of last season, he went off, but he's never done it in a consistent full season scale like this. So.
Very true. And I think Zeke gets used a little bit more in the passing game too. So there's some PPR value to him.
More. He got used quite a bit this past season.
I'm saying more than Henry is what I'm saying.
Oh,
you know, quite a bit more. So, okay. Here's another guy that's going to be real popular coming into this season. Okay. Aaron Jones or King Kong?
I'm going King Kong.
Okay. I think I am
King Kong all day.
Yeah, I am too. Okay. Here's the question. Saquon Barkley or King Kong?
Saquon's my 2.
So Saquon, so King Kong is 4 right now currently based on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Alvin Kamara or King Kong? King Kong. All right, that's fair. So I mean, look, this guy has quite literally pushed himself to stardom. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing.
Yeah, it's incredible watching him, really. It's going to be really fun to watch him against the Chiefs, that's for sure. I mean, their game plan is to feed the ball to this massive gorilla of a human being, give him bananas beforehand.
Yep.
Here's a question, Brian. Is he you sent me a video the other day. I think you were watching Kickboxer. with
100% was.
Yes, is he juiced up like the guy that Van Damme fights in that movie?
Oh, Tong Po. Yeah. So here's the question:
top of his head.
In a pure out street fight, Tong Po or King Kong. So,
I'm going Tong Po all day.
I'm going King Kong, dude. He'll eat that guy.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Oh my.
Tong Po
Well,
is
look,
incredible.
man, you saw what happened to Tong Po when he didn't have, some leverage.
Well, I mean, the real question is King Kong or Van Damme. That's a different question.
Actually, I'd like to see a three-way fight. I'd like to see.
That is unbeatable right there.
Well, I'd like to see a three-way fight. Tong Po, Van Damme versus King Kong.
What? Three people
last man standing. Yeah.
Cage match.
Cage match.
Give them some barbed
wire on the top.
Chairs.
Yeah, barbed wire on the top. One guy, you get one weapon of choice. Tong Po is taking a flaming stick.
Yes.
And Van Damme's gonna take I don't know,
the splits.
Nope. Yes, the splits. There you go. Yep. Van Damme takes the splits. And I think Derrick Henry just takes
a helmet.
King Kong power.
One helmet.
One helmet. Yeah. So
yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, it's this. So the playoffs are pretty impressive so far, to say the least. Right now, as we're recording this, BroMob, it's Packers 28, Seahawks 10.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to need some Russell Wilson here really, really soon if we want to see our predictions shake out the way we want them.
Well, I mean, I got the Packers winning right now. So if they win, I got 50-50, but definitely didn't have the Titans beating the Ravens. And certainly had the Vikings beating the 49ers, but that made me look silly. The 49ers are just for real. I thought they'd come in rusty, having that week off, but they came in well rested, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chad, I know we're not going to do a news segment today, but just one thing I do want to note is offensive coordinator for the Vikings is now officially the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. They finally pulled the trigger on a coach.
Yeah, it was clear that they were waiting for a playoff team, right? The second you started seeing them kind of stalling and hesitating with Josh McDaniels, you're like, okay, they're waiting for a playoff guy. The only name I thought of was Kevin Stefanski because he was the only one that was really in contention for that job as well. So they finally got their guy. It's going to be interesting to see what they kind of do there with him. But I like how much he ran the ball with Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb. I like those out. That what's the word I'm looking for, Brian? That projection. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, and Kirk Cousins had a really good season under him. I mean, it was a slow start, and I think it was because of the balanced attack, and I think that's what they're going to look for in the season this year going in. So Cleveland needs to calm down, a little bit more balance, run the ball, play good defense. That's going to be the ingredients there. I think they're going to be a lot less flashy than they were this year, next year. So, I think it was a good hire by them, to be quite honest.
I mean, and then Stefanski is, Kubiak was there as a kind of like an offensive, what would you call him? A consultant, essentially. He was there to help out. So Stefanski's kind of got like this Kubiak system inside of him. Everybody knows Kubiak loves to run the ball. He has zone reads for his type of zone running schemes, for his running game. So that should be really nice for a guy like Nick Chubb, who's a fantastic one-cut running back. He's got the speed to kind of explode. So could be an interesting thing for him next season. I kind of looking forward to it as well. So it should help out Baker Mayfield with his decision making, because Kirk Cousins had 6 interceptions, Brian, this year. It was, if you can keep Kirk Cousins from throwing interceptions, he should be able to help Baker Mayfield make better decisions, right? I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, one would assume, that's for sure. And then, one other coaching mention that happened between last week's show and this week's show, Chad, was, I know for the Cowboys, you and I were both kind of crossing our fingers Urban Meyer would be coming in to coach the Cowboys. Turns out they pulled a fast one on us, and it was Mike McCarthy, Chad. So, as a Cowboys fan, I already know how you feel. I feel the same way. I'm cautiously optimistic, I feel like.
Yes.
I feel like it's an upgrade over Garrett, but not the upgrade I was really hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, it's a step above mediocrity, I guess, but he does have a Super Bowl underneath his tenure. He had Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. I like the enthusiasm he has and the team kind of has around him. So that's nice to see. It's kind of uplifting to see a team excited about something, but it's hard to be a fan and not be super excited about something like they are. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he's got a lot of talent, which is on both sides of the ball that should be there. I think Dallas obviously, I think they'll sign Dak. If anything, they'll franchise tag him. I think they'll sign Amari Cooper. And so I don't think Amari Cooper goes anywhere. That's my feeling. Yeah. So I'm curious what they do with some of the talent on the defensive side of the ball that is slated to be unrestricted free agent. But ultimately, I think a lot of the squad comes back, don't you?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, it was the number one offense in the league, statistically speaking. You'd kind of hope that they bring back some of them players to keep that rolling. That defense needs a little bit of help, so I'm interested to see what happens there. They got Greg Roman coming in for defense, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, a lot of interesting things going on here, Brian. We got the Giants signing the special teams and wide receiver coach, Judge, to their head coaching position. Says he's going to bring old school football there. It sounds like they're going to be running the ball a lot. So Saquon Barkley fans out there, rejoice. Looks like they're not going to run away from him.
If he doesn't wear a Judge Dredd mask on day one, I don't want to even see it. I don't believe any of it.
I am the coach.
I'm the law.
I'd love to see that. But yeah, so BroMob, we got a lot to talk about here. We're going to kind of move on. Not going to talk too much about these head coach hires, the rest of them that happened here. But a lot of exciting stuff. It's good to see teams kind of rolling in new directions, and it could help out fantasy seasons next year. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it throughout the offseason and see how teams are kind of reacting to it and how they're coming up with their new playbooks, essentially. So, and how teams are adjusting to those. So we'll keep everybody up to date. Let's get into the show, but first, follow along after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast, and check out our TikTok page, which is pretty fresh. We got things going on there. Brian and I are doing a whole lot of shenanigans on TikTok, talking about players that we like for next season, players that we like for Dynasty. So check that out at Fantasy Football Bros. That's at Fantasy Football Bros on TikTok. Be sure to subscribe and always leave a comment for us in iTunes. We love comments and our fans letting us know how we're doing. We'll come on here. We'll definitely read out some of the comments and some of the things that we hear from you and give you guys a shout out from time to time. So go on there, leave a comment, and always subscribe. Let your family know about us. And then finally, go to jointhebromob.com and become an official BroMobster today. It's just Brian and I producing this show together, and any bit of help works. So let's get into the show, Brian. The Fantasy Football Bros Grand Slams and Whiffs of 2019. All right, let's start it off with our Grand Slams. Brian, we did great this season. I guess that's what a lot of studying does, because we put a lot of time and effort into this. We had a lot of names here that we definitely swung on and we hit, and we got that Grand Slam on. So, Brian, I'm going to give this first one to you, let you kind of talk about them, because this was definitely your, I believed them in as well, but you were on this train all off season.
Yeah, absolutely, Chad. I just believed in him. And you know what I really like about this guy is the floor. You know, his ability to scramble and how they use him in the rushing game just gives him such a safe floor each week. And when he gets a good matchup to be able to pass the ball and put a couple touchdowns on the board as well through the air, it really lifts his fantasy value. So, Chad, the guy that I really love this year was quarterback Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. Really listed him as a breakout player this year. He finished as a top 6 quarterback on the year, which is so impressive from looking at a guy that was likely either drafted really deep, Chad, probably 12th, 13th round, and in some cases not drafted at all.
Yeah.
And so you had a top 6 quarterback finish, 288 or more, just a hair over 288 fantasy points on the season. And Josh Allen, I think, has the recipe to be that kind of guy next year too. I mean, they've got a lot of young talent, especially at the wide receiver spot. And, they've got some talent there at the running back position too. And I know that might scare some people. I actually think it actually devalues the running back there a little bit more than it hurts than Josh Allen anyway. So I really like Josh Allen. Great year again, top six finish, and future looks bright in Buffalo for sure. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. And talking about bright futures, rookie quarterback Kyler Murray. This is a guy I put a lot of time in during the offseason, kind of studying up to see what he was going to be in the NFL. As we remember, he was coming into the league with a little bit of controversy. It looked like he was going to possibly be going to professional baseball. Got drafted by the Oakland Athletics, actually, to be a second baseman for them. Decided ultimately to come to the NFL and pursue his dream to be an NFL quarterback. Got drafted the number 1 overall pick. He has he doesn't have the intangibles of a regular NFL quarterback. He's very short, but the thing is, he's an accurate thrower, and he's electric with his legs. So I kind of studied up on him, put a lot of effort into projecting him out, and saw him as ultimately a top 10, top 12 type of quarterback in his first rookie season, and he did just that. He was the number 8 scoring quarterback in fantasy football his rookie season at 285 points, just 3 points away from Josh Allen. Brian, I mean, he had a great season as a rookie. I loved it there. He's got a lot of weapons at wide receiver. Even if Fitzgerald leaves, I still believe in him. He's still got Christian Kirk there. He still has Andy Isabella, a young, electric wide receiver there who didn't really shine this season but has opportunities to. Keyshawn Johnson, who kind of came out of nowhere as a big rookie name in that team as well. And then Hakeem Butler, who was on IR all season, should be back next season. So he's still got a lot of weapons at wide receiver, and the team is definitely trying to build around him. So I really liked him this year. And it was a big hit for us.
Yeah, Chad, I think the Cardinals are really a few years away, or a couple years, maybe next year or the year after, away from being a really good team. I mean, they just got to work on the offensive line a little bit, and then ultimately fix that defense. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Just the defense. Get that defense fixed. That's going to be a big piece. So, Chad, next guy here on our Grand Slams list is, for this guy, Chad, I'm going to have to add something to my wardrobe really quick. These things right here, these are what I like to call the I told you shades. Okay. And, look, this guy, Aaron Jones, Chad, he's not just any ordinary guy. He was a my guy. I don't know if you knew this. Okay.
Yeah,
he was my guy. I was super hot on Aaron Jones. And I remember, if we go way back in the vault, Chad, of episodes that we produced in 2019, I believe there was an episode of me saying, hey, we had a segment of who are guys that you could probably draft in the second round or later that have the potential to break into to be a first round talent. Kind of like a Christian McCaffrey, this year's Christian McCaffrey. And Aaron Jones was my guy.
Yeah.
And Chad, I'm pretty sure he did that. He was the number 2 quarterback on the year.
Running back.
And, I'm sorry. Yep. Running back. I clearly have no clue what I'm doing.
He outscored quarterbacks, though. If you see the fantasy points, I mean, he did outscore fantasy football 100%. Quarterbacks this season. He had a great season.
Yeah, more points than Josh Allen, who we just talked about before. 290.3 fantasy points on the season. Again, finished the number 2 running back on the year behind Christian McCaffrey, Chad. So, look, Aaron Jones, I'm watching him in this Packer game right now, just running amok. Still doing Aaron Jones type things. It's amazing. We identified him as an extreme talent coming into this year. Really, it was just involvement. How involved were they going to get him in this new offensive scheme? We knew that Coach LaFleur, cramming up your cram hole, LaFleur. We knew that he was going to cram it up teams' cram holes with Aaron Jones or a running back. We just needed to see it this year, and boy, did we. So, yeah, Chad, a lot. I see a bright future for Aaron Jones. I think it's the beginning of a lot of really good seasons for him.
Yeah, I think we made a really good comparison during our offseason shows of 2019, and we compared him to Jamal Charles. Same type of running back, explosive, should see a lot of red zone touches, and he has all of that. I mean, he had a season very similar to what Jamal Charles used to do for the Chiefs. So,
yeah, another guy he reminds me of is Kareem Hunt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just see a lot of Kareem Hunt in him. So yeah, I think he's uber talented, and the Packers are crazy to not feed him the ball. He's still got 1 year left on his rookie deal.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
That's how crazy it is. And he was a 4-year rookie deal, which, by the way, Jamal Williams also still has 1 more year on his rookie deal. They were both drafted in the same draft.
Jamal Williams was actually drafted before Aaron Jones, is the funny thing.
I thought he was drafted in the same draft.
No, I mean, no, in the same round, the same draft. But Jamal Williams was drafted in the 3rd round, and I believe Aaron Jones was a 5th or 6th round selection.
What 2 steals? Honestly, I think they're both good running backs, but Aaron Jones is like light years more talented. Just lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the conversation of talent, Brian, another guy that we absolutely hit on, Chris Godwin. We had him as a breakout candidate this coming season, and man, did he do that. He finished as the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy football, and he even missed games at the end of the season with injury, Brian. 233 fantasy points, and I guess this is what happens when you get Bruce Arians in town and he decides he wants to throw to the wide receivers, right? Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both had top 10 finishes this season. It was incredible, and they both were injured at some point in time. So Chris Godwin, absolute steal for people who decided to take him. I believe he was going 4th or 5th round in fantasy drafts. This is a guy who, I mean, I wouldn't say he won you the championship because he wasn't playing for it, but he at least helped you get there because he had a great season. So we label him as a breakout. It could be for years to come, Brian, that he's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely, Chad. Another guy that was a really great pick this year, and likely you got him deeper in the draft, was tight end Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Finished as the number 4 tight end on the season. We had him as a sleeper value in our draft this year, and I bought in. As a matter of fact, I bought in enough to draft him. So 175.2 fantasy points on the year. And I mean, it was really, the recipe was just perfect for him. You had a quarterback that was lightning in a bottle oh my God.
Lamar Jackson?
Thank you. Jeez, oh my, I had the worst
the
brain
MVP
freeze
for 2019.
Yeah, I'm very aware of who he is. Yeah, Lamar Jackson. Thank you. And then at the same time, you had an offensive scheme that used tight ends heavily. And so, my question, Chad, is: do you think anything changes next year? I don't see any reason why it should.
Well, I mean, no. This is an offense that was one of the best in the league. Certainly the best at the running game. So I wouldn't change anything about the offense. The play action is beautiful on it. Lamar Jackson plays in it very well, and he loves those tight ends. So the only thing it worries me is players like Hayden Hurst being there and the 19 other tight ends that are on the roster. Not saying that they're any better than Mark Andrews, but I don't like target share getting stolen or siphoned away at all. So Mark Andrews still a beast, but let's say he gets injured and Hayden Hurst decides he wants to be an absolute rig for those couple of games that he's injured or 3 games that he's injured. You could start to see a lot of targets getting distributed in different directions.
Yeah, I get that. I think Mark Andrews is the guy there. He's the big dog in town. That I don't think it matters. So, so love. Can't say enough about Mark Andrews.
Our next call out here, Miami, Darius Geis. I'm playing it off like we really liked him. BroMob, we actually labeled him as a bust coming into the season. He had that built into his draft capital. I believe he was going somewhere around the 5th round in redraft leagues. But still, that was too high for Darius Geis. We came in knowing that we actually had a pretty good interview with Dr. Jesse Morris from the Fantasy Doctors, kind of talking about some of the injury risk there with the Washington Redskins team in general, just their training staff being terrible. And Darius Geis was a huge injury risk coming into the season, and we just did not want to touch that and labeled him as a bust candidate. He got injured twice in the 2019 season, missed a good portion of the beginning of the season, came back, started to show promise, and then once again got injured. And then he missed the remainder of the season, got put on IR. So if you drafted him in the 5th round, it definitely hurt your chances. I mean, that's the 4th and 5th rounds are so huge in fantasy football because those are your those are your players that you're hoping to either to hit on or you're looking for consistency. You're not looking for players to bust in that round. It definitely hurt fantasy owners who took him, and we tried to stay away from him anywhere we could.
Yeah, absolutely. And another guy that we labeled as a bust, Chad, was the Colts tight end, Eric Ebron. Finished as the 27th ranked tight end on the year. Went on IR week 13, had a pretty bad season. And look, we said going into the year that you look at his 2018 season, and it was heavy on touchdowns. Yes. It was a heavily touchdown-dependent season. You take out a majority of those touchdowns, and what was left was really a really scarce amount of points. And so enter into 2019. Exactly what happened. And that was like by the way, that was his best year of his career.
Yes.
In 2018. So coming off a career year that was not indicative of previous years. And, we had T.Y. Hilton came back from injury from 2018. He was banged up a little bit in 2019 too, but still you had the emergence of other talents there on that offense, and Eric Ebron just got left behind.
Yeah, let's not forget the surprise retirement of star quarterback Andrew Luck as well. I mean, that definitely put a toll on that offense.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and so I think Eric Ebron was a guy that probably stung and burned a lot of people this year.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think this is the biggest sting right here, Brian. This is a wide receiver people were taking in the third round in some places. They were hoping for the type of season that we saw out of Amari Cooper, really. I mean, I think a lot of people saw a big breakout type of candidate here. Stephon Diggs, we labeled him as a bust this offseason. And a lot of people, I think there were a lot of people out there like, why would you, he's clearly talented, which he is. But he also kind of trails off and disappears from time to time, and that's what you got out of him this year. Some games he was explosive, and other times you get nothing for 3 weeks. He finished as the number 21 wide receiver in fantasy football. It's not really what you're looking for in the third round. You're looking for a wide receiver 2, and he's at the back end of the wide receiver 2 category right there, Brian. So let me name off some names that did better than him this season. Also were much cheaper. John Brown, Cortland Sutton, A.J. Brown, a rookie who pretty much went undrafted in a lot of leagues, DJ Moore, DJ Chark, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, another segment that we have. But those are names that did better than him, Brian. John Brown, I mean, the Buffalo Bills, a passing attack that was not as good as what Minnesota had, was able to have a much better season.
Yeah, Chad, and I think we said that another big reason why we thought Diggs would be a bust was just a new offensive scheme. You know, Kirk Cousins threw the ball on an average of like 600 times a game in 2018.
Roughly.
The offense, roughly. I mean, give or take. It might have been 1,000. But the offense changed dramatically. The team realized we need to be more balanced. Therefore, it takes more opportunities off the plate, which then we said, hey, if it's going to affect anybody, who's it going to affect? Their deep guy, the deep field guy who runs a lot of deep routes, or is it going to hurt guys like Adam Thielen, who's more of a possession receiver? And sure enough, it was exactly what we said it would do. Mm-hmm. So I don't think anything changes moving forward. I think the Vikings found a system. I think they're going to, even though their offensive coordinator is going to change over the year over year here, I think they'll continue to run that style or that scheme of offense. So yeah, I just think Stefon Diggs continues to be a bust. Will Dissly, Chad, was a guy that was talked about quite a bit from you and I. We actually labeled him as a sleeper coming into this season. And man, he was, a couple last people we'll talk about here, but he's one of them. Was absolute lightning in the bottle for the tight end position before he got injured in week 6. Had literally just one game under 10 fantasy points to that point. And another guy, Chad, here, I'll finish it up really quick, is quarterback Dak Prescott, who we said was a great deep pick, value pick, finished as the number 2 quarterback for the season. Yeah. And by the way, hadn't finished as anything less than a QB1 his entire career. Mm-hmm. So going into the season, now he has his best season of his career, nearly 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing year. Led the league in passing yards with that mark. And so Dak Prescott was a great pick. If you got him, most likely you got him deeper than the 10th round, maybe even 12th, 13th round is where I saw him going pretty consistently.
Yeah, I think it was 10th and 11th is where I kind of saw him going as well. So at 10 to 13, I mean, geez, you got yourself the number 2 quarterback in fantasy football. It's incredible. Brian, let's talk about some of our whiffs. I'm going to start it off with the first guy because I loved him in the offseason, and I invested in him in some leagues, and he hurt me. O.J. Howard of the Tampa Bay Jameis Winston's. He finished number 29 overall at the tight end position. And the worry of the offseason was that Bruce Arians doesn't throw to tight ends in his offense. And it was like, you know what? He's never had O.J. Howard on his team, right? Because O.J. Howard's uber talented. Nope. Bruce Arians does not throw to the tight ends, BroMob. Hence the stats that we saw from O.J. Howard. We believe it. We're not going anywhere near it going forward. It hurts. O.J. Howard is so talented. I hope there's some sort of trade or some sort of them just kind of releasing him and some other team picks him up because he's got so much talent. I hope he has another opportunity.
Yeah, Chad, we'll run through these pretty quick here. Dante Pettis was another guy that was a little bit of a whiff from us. We really whiff. Not just for us. I think everybody was kind of just scratching their head at it. He went into the offseason as the surefire number 1 wide receiver on that 49ers team, and started the season as, I believe, a coach's scratch. He literally didn't play. Finished as the 131st ranked wide receiver on the season. Literally lost his job. And never got it back. So there was just trust. He showed up to practice just unmotivated, didn't really show signs. I don't know what happened. It's very interesting. The team ended up trading for Emmanuel Sanders halfway through the season, and that was it. So Sanders and the rest of the team took over from there. So Dante Pettis, a guy that I don't know. I'm going to monitor, his status closely going into 2020 here, Chad, because I'd like to see if he somehow winds up on another team, and can rejuvenate his career because he is talented.
Yeah, he's got a great route running tree on him. I mean, he's incredible route runner. So I'm with you. I'm going to keep an eye on him as well. All right, I'm going to get into the next guy here, and I'm going to be the one that says it because this is a player that. You know what? I still don't like. I still don't like him. I labeled him as a bust coming into the season. But he ended up being the number 9 running back on the season. That's right. It's Leonard Fournette, Mr. Leo himself. Look, BroMob, he was used in the passing game way more than previous seasons. We anticipated him to get used more in the passing game, but not 76 catches for 522 yards more. I mean, it's incredible. He had a great season at the running back position. The only thing that kind of hampered him was that he didn't have any touchdowns, really. He had 3 rushing and 1 receiving, so not a huge year in terms of touchdowns, but he had a lot of yardage, a lot of usage, and he didn't get injured much. So he was on the field. That was the biggest thing with him. So Leonard Fournette, labeled him as a bust, certainly was not that for fantasy owners.
Yeah, Chad, the next guy here on the list that we also listed as a bust was, and this one hits home because he's one of our hometown guys, man.
It's an interesting one, too. We'll talk a little bit about him here.
Yeah, absolutely. So wide receiver Amari Cooper finished as the number 9 ranked wide receiver on the season. Got off to an incredible start to the season. I'm just going to read off the points here for PPR. 22.6, 14.4, 26.8, 9.8, and 39.6. So that's the first 5 weeks. He was literally like on fire.
Unstoppable.
And so, yeah, absolutely. Then he kind of finished the season like you had said before. Kind of finished the season as a little bit of a dud. So from weeks 11 on. 6.8. He missed the game, played the game, but missed it basically. But played the game against New England. Did not catch one single ball.
Nope.
So 0 points.
Gilmore.
Then he had 16.5 points, 20.5 points, then 2.9, 6.4, and finished with 13.8. So he had since week 11, he had 4 games in the single digit or less And by less, I mean he had a 0 game. So only 3 games out of 7 games did he have more than 10 points. Not what you're really looking for. So he hurt a lot of people to finish the season, Chad.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a bust, but he certainly did hurt. I mean, he probably helped you get to the playoffs, BroMob, but he certainly didn't help you win anything. A really bad finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of really bad finishes, it's possibly the worst I've ever seen. David Johnson of the Arizona Cardinals. Look, we had him ranked number 6 coming into the season, and I'm not talking number 6 running back. I'm saying we said to draft him number 6 overall. He ended up finishing number 38 at the running back position, and here's the thing. He started off really hot, just like Amari Cooper did, and actually had some really good stat lines throughout weeks 1 through 5. But then once he got injured, things went downhill from there. He came back, was playing, but he clearly lost the step. I mean, there was the famous video out there that showed how slow he was, and he couldn't get around the edge at all. It looked like Eddie Lacy when he put on all those pounds. Only David Johnson hadn't put on pounds yet. So he was very slow and had just lost a step, and he lost his job essentially to Kenyon Drake, who the team traded for. I mean, actually, he lost his job really to Chase Edmonds going into it. When Chase Edmonds got injured, they had already traded for Kenyon Drake on the team, and Kenyon Drake took over. So David Johnson essentially found himself on the bench, maybe getting 1 or 2 carries a game, and that was it. So it's going to be interesting going forward, Brian, because he was serviceable for the team when he was healthy.
Yeah, I think his days as a Cardinals over, to be honest with you.
Could be.
You know, the reason here in Arizona, I hear, you see a lot of the local stuff, and there was a lot of talk about, like, why didn't the Cardinals trade him before the deadline? His contract virtually made him untradeable.
Yes,
this season, and
it's a huge cap hit.
Yeah, massive cap hit. So it changes a little bit next year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them either cut him or trade him. So ultimately, I think they sign Kenyon Drake to a deal, at least a 2-year deal, to try to keep him around for another couple of years. But I think they feel like they had something in Drake and Edmonds, and ultimately that's why they brought Drake in. I think we'll find out that David Johnson was probably injured more than we realized.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I see there. But yeah, Chad, David Johnson, definitely a disappointment. I think we could say that definitively. Another guy that was kind of disappointing. I mean, not kind of, I guess he is disappointing, but I mean, he wasn't I don't know. He didn't have a terrible year. He just didn't have the year we thought he was going to have. And that's running back Le'Veon Bell of the New York Jets, who likely is going to be on a different team next year. I don't think Adam Gase really wants him around at all. I don't think he wants him around this year at all, which could speak a little bit to his year. But he finished 17th overall at the running back position. Didn't have any games, literally 0 games over 100 yards rushing the entire season. First time in his career that's ever happened. And so I think better days ahead for Lev Bell. If you're listening and you're in a dynasty league, do not panic on Lev Bell. The talent is way too good. He's still young, and I would not be pivoting off of this season of Lev Bell, right, Chad?
Oh yeah, I mean, not only is the talent still good, but it's still there. I mean, he still has it. If you watch the games, he was still able to juke and jive his way to get more yards than what he should have been getting. Really, his offensive line play was just terrible, and the run schemes were really bad. I mean, not anything on Adam Gase or that offense there, but the run schemes didn't seem to be very conducive to a running back. Really, I mean, it was obvious they were going to run the ball on certain plays, right? So he's stopping him before the play even started, really. So I still really like Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I've actually heard speculation that the Pittsburgh Steelers could try to trade for him and bring him back in. I don't know how likely that is. It's a pretty nasty breakup right there between those two. But I mean, if they were to mend fences, it'd be interesting.
Business is business, man. I mean, Lev Bell fit that scheme well. I'm sure he misses rushing and being the talk of the league like he was. I mean, he's actually a pretty humble dude.
He is.
So he's not like Antonio Brown, the other Steeler that left Pittsburgh. So anyway, but yeah, Lev Bell, a little bit of a disappointment. On the flip side, BroMob, if you're in a dynasty league, you might want to go try to get him. See if you can get him for cheap. This might be a good time to trade for Lev Bell. The Bell owner could be kind of on unsettled ground with him, thinking, I used the high draft pick. This guy is going to be not really thinking ahead to he's not going to be in New York next year. Oh, this is the new Lev Bell I got to deal with. He clearly, the Steelers were the reason he was good. It had nothing to do with him, and they might be ready to pivot. You could get Lev Bell for a steal. He's only 27 years old, and he had an entire season that he sat out. So that's one less year that he's actually been, pounded on in an NFL season, right?
I mean, granted, he was pounded on pretty hard the seasons before. I mean, he had back-to-back seasons of over 300 carries, or 300 touches. So he's got a lot of mileage on him, but he did have an off season, or a full season the rest. So I see what you're saying, Brian. He's definitely cheaper than what he should be right now. So BroMob, go out there and check it out. Then our last whiff here, BroMob, is a guy whose name you might not even remember, but this was a type of guy we called him a value pick. Mainly because he was going undrafted, and it was a type of guy who could end up being a wide receiver 2 type of player. And that's Robert Foster of the Buffalo Bills. The team just decided they want to use John Brown and Cole Beasley almost exclusively to the wide receiver position. Towards the end of the season, they had Duke Williams, rookie wide receiver there, that kind of stood out as well. But Robert Foster, a guy who had a really big end of the season in 2018, virtually not used on the team. He had 3 catches all season. What? So, not a value pick, not a good pick at all. So, sorry about that one, BroMob. All right, BroMob, let's get into those 2019 surprising players. That's surprising.
I mean, I hear that, and then I get the music, and it makes me feel like I'm in, I'm getting ready to make love. I don't know what
You're about to have a really sensual dinner.
I hear Tim Allen.
Candles are lit.
And then I hear Tim Allen make the sound he makes. I hear your voice, and then I feel like I need to make love afterwards. This is terrible. It's terrible. Oh, man. All right.
Possibly the best drop I've ever made. Brian, who are your 2019 surprises?
Yeah, let's get into that. So I'm going to start it off, Chad. So how do you want me? Do you want me to run through these, like just rapid fire all of them, or you want to alternate? You want to try to
just
bounce
do it rapid
back
fire.
And forth,
rapid fire works. Run through yours. Right. I'll run through mine at the end. Mine are better anyway, so I'll just let you get rid of all of your nastiness.
Oh man, I do enjoy some rapid fire. So all right, BroMob, let's do this. All right, here we go. Maybe not that rapid. All right, my first pick is quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Right off the bat, Lamar Jackson surprised living daylights out of me. I thought I liked Josh Allen. I really liked Lamar Jackson. Chad, we talked about it. He was a guy that we said to target later in the draft for sure. Never in my wildest dreams did I see the season coming that we saw. As a matter of fact, he was a guy that we said, hey, target, because we really liked his schedule for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, we called him a very good streaming option for those first 4 weeks.
That's right. He graduated from streaming option to punch you in the face entire league and probably got you a ring option. So Lamar Jackson, hats off to you, bud. It was, it sucked to see him lose last week, but also I really want the Titans to win the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I want to see an upset. Actually, I would love to see, and I mean, if the Seahawks could pull this off here, I'd really love to see a Titans Seahawks Super Bowl. Both succeeds in the Super Bowl. I think it'd be fun because Super Bowl's gotten a little stale lately.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's doing his comeback kid thing right now. So just so you know.
Here we go. All right. So next pick is Patriots defense, Chad. I knew going into this year, I really liked the Patriots defense. I did not see them being as dominant as they ended up being. They were the number one defense by far by approximately 50 points, depending on what your scoring system is. But I mean, look, the Patriots, I really liked them. I'm going to give you some insight. So I loved everything I saw from a talent standpoint. But I listened to Belichick talk about the defense this year, and he said that it was the most talented young defense he's ever coached in his career. And that was like, I love them now. Because I knew when he said that, I'm like, all right, all the talent that I already had done my diligence on and I liked, plus Belichick saying that just told me he was going to surround and embrace that defense, and boy did he. So Patriots defense huge. Another guy, Chad, we just talked about him a little bit ago, took not only did he take it, but he snatched it away from David Johnson, and that's Kenyon Drake, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Broke it out, man. Likely broke out so much he may have just won him a starting job going forward. I think Kenyon Drake does sign a deal with Arizona. The talk here in town, in Arizona and Phoenix, where I live, is the team wants him back, and they've been very forward with him about it. So I think Kenyon Drake is in a Cardinals jersey next year, and maybe even for the next year or two. So look for that. These last two, man, are just like, what happened? Antonio Brown. What? Yeah. So, I mean, we said stay away, right? As we got into the draft and all the drama and stuff that was going around with the Oakland camp. Then he was released. He signed with New England, and I do believe I said even when he signed with New England, I'm like, I'm still not touching him. I'm staying away. There's too much drama, and I just don't believe it's going to last. And it didn't. And he crazied himself right out of the league. So he done got out of the league, dude. So see you later, Antonio Brown. We'll maybe see you again. I doubt it. He says he wants to play, but for nobody except for Tom Brady. So could be it, Chad. Could be done. Antonio Brown, bye-bye. What's that segment? A Saturday Night Live segment? Bye-bye. Antonio Brown, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Last guy out here on my list, Chad. This one hurt me a little bit because I had him in a couple leagues. And yeah, it did hurt you too. And that's wide receiver of the LA Rams, Brandon Cooks. And look, his slide from dominance this year was really just tough to watch. He had 2 touchdowns on the entire season when he has had no less than, I think, 10, if I'm not mistaken, on the season. Over his career?
I mean, he had as many touchdowns this season as he had concussions.
Yeah, and that's tough. That's the tough part. Is he has been littered with concussions over his career.
Huge hits. And so they're just unlucky, just absolute monsters of hits on him.
Yeah, which is really tough to watch because he's so talented, and it could be shortening his career, or could have. I mean, he may retire after this. So, Brandon Cooks, tough to watch. And then, that was really just one of the things. Another guy that I'll honorably mention here was Latavius Murray. He did finish as just under a RB2 on the year, Chad, 140 points on the season, and was great when Kamara was kind of out. But other than that, he was really just non-serviceable. And so Lat Murray, probably spot played a couple times here and there, got you some wins, but ultimately I think we envisioned bigger things for him going into the season.
Yeah, I definitely saw more carries for him coming in, but that's it's kind of a big thing. That kind of segues nicely into my first surprise, Brian, and that is Alvin Kamara, who finished as the number 12 running back coming in the season. It's just weird. I mean, this is a guy that I had pegged easily in my top 4 running backs, and I would definitely say most experts in the industry pegged him as top 4. There were a lot of them that had him as the number 1 running back over players like Saquon Barkley and over Zeke and everybody else. I mean, he was supposed to have a much better season than what he had. It's his new job. It's his job. Mark Ingram's gone. But the biggest thing here, Brian, other than injuries that he had throughout the season here, was that his touchdowns regressed quite significantly, which was anticipated, but not as much as it did. I mean, I think he had a total of 6, maybe 7 touchdowns on the season. That's just not what we were looking for from Kamara, who had well above the double-digit touchdown mark from last season. So just a very disappointing season and not very good fantasy purposes for you this year. David Johnson, we kind of already talked about him. It was just so super surprising for me to see him lose his starting job to anybody, let alone it being Chase Edmonds or Kenyon Drake. Very weird, especially the way he started the season off, because he started pretty hot. Getting a lot of yardage, getting used in the passing game quite often, lots of touchdowns. But that injury definitely had to be something more than what we're hearing of it today. The biggest name here, Brian, that I'm gonna mention, Devontae Parker, who throughout his career has been nothing but the biggest fantasy tease in the world. decides he wants to go ahead and be what everybody had hoped that he could be, and that is the number 7 wide receiver in fantasy purposes, with Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing the football to him at QB. I mean, that's all it takes, I guess, for Fitzmagic to come in and start slinging the ball around the mountain. Devontae Parker had a great season. He was jumping over receivers. He was breaking people's ankles with great routes. It was just a really good season all around, Brian. And then finally, OBJ finishing outside the top 20 at the wide receiver position. This is a guy I saw who could possibly have a bust type of season, not necessarily outside of the top 20, but I could see him struggling with a new offense like most wide receivers do in their first year and whenever they come to a new team, which is definitely what we saw, but this was a frustrated season for OBJ owners. He's still an uber talented wide receiver, Brian. Still super young, has a lot ahead of him, but it was disappointing to see what he did this year. Jarvis Landry well outperformed him. He was the clear wide receiver 1 on the team, making OBJ the wide receiver 2.
Yeah, Colin Cowherd called that. I listened to his show quite a bit, and he actually had said that he would prefer Landry over OBJ because Landry was more consistent and just kind of the ever present, and OBJ was just so flashy, and that he just didn't prefer it if building his own team. So Devontae Parker, I just want to put it out there. I've been on the Devontae Parker train for 3 years.
So it feels the rest of the fantasy community, Brian.
It was so pleasing and disappointing at the same time because I was loving watching him break out this year. But then I watched him break out so much that he actually cost me. He
broke out all over your face and destroyed you in the fantasy championship.
And I lost the championship with him on the other side of the token here. So, Chad, good picks.
Yep. All right, BroMob. Well, that is going to do it for this week's show. Be sure to tune in every Monday and stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football leagues this offseason.
That's right, BroMob. And, the other thing, too, that we want to let you know is get on over to thefantasyfootballbros.com. That is our website. Again, thefantasyfootballbros.com. All kinds of articles, rankings, stuff like that. Right now, we're in the off-season mode, so we're starting to work on articles for Dynasty. Might talk about the XFL a little bit. Just shoot some random stuff at you from time to time, like, I don't know, maybe just a picture of Chad's mustache. I don't know. Crazy stuff. But the fantasyfootballbros.com, all kinds of great goodies over there. Go check it out.
Speaking of mustaches, if you want to see us in our social media worlds, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast. And as we mentioned in the beginning of the show, we're also on TikTok at Fantasy Football Bros. We're doing a whole lot of shenanigans on there. We're dipping our toes in the water, so to speak. We're putting out some videos, talking a whole lot of nonsense, also talking up some players that we really like. So check us out on TikTok at Fantasy Football Bros. Thank you, BroMob. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.